Good afternoon, hello to everyone. Let me introduce myself briefly. I'm Ladislav Cabada, member of the Executive Committee of ECPR and also chair of the jury for the Political Theory Prize. And I would like to open this video with brief information about the prize and about the background regarding this honor. Basically, the Political Theory Prize belongs among the newest prizes honored by the ECPR. The proposal to establish this first book prize in political theory grew up in the discussion within some of the steering committees of the ECPR, and it was set up in 2019. The prize is to honor the best first English language book published within the political theory, broadly understood political theory field in the past 2 years. Talking about the jury, I would like to stress that the jury comprises from 6 members next to the chair, who represents the executive committee. We have five working members of the jury, 4 of them representing different steering committees focusing on political theory. So the standing group on Kantian political thought, the standing group on political theory, the standing group on international political theory, and the standing group from the General Conference section on methodology. Last but not least, I would like to stress that the 5th member is the representative or the editor of the journal Contemporary Political Theory. In names, I would like to introduce my respected colleagues within the jury. It was Andrej Poama from the University of Leiden. It was Jemima Repo representing the Newcastle University, Paula Romero from the University of Fribourg, Jonathan Floyd from the Bristol University, and last but not least, Peter Nissen from the University of Hamburg in Germany. I would like to stress that we have evaluated all these books based on 3 main criteria. It was the complexity of the relevant area in political theory, so the challenge basically. The second was the originality and quality of the argument brought by the author. And the third was the contribution to the development of political theory general, and of course regarding also the respective area within the political theory subfields. And we have had a very fruitful and long discussion about the nominee, and it's my honor to declare that at the end we have found the winner, and it is the Sinja Graf from the London School of Economics and Political Science with her book The Humanity of Universal Crime, Inclusion in Inequality and Intervention in International Political Thought.
My name is William Bain. I'm professor of international political theory at the National University of Singapore. I'd like to begin by extending my very warm congratulations to Sinja on this outstanding achievement. It's traditional to say on such occasions to note and speak to the originality of the argument, and to note the quality of the argumentation and the research, and also to note the importance of the scholarly contribution. This book is all of these things. Indeed, one of its many strengths is that this book speaks to many different audiences. This is a political theory prize, and indeed, political theorists will get an awful lot out of this book, but so too will international relations scholars and international lawyers. It's for this reason, I think, that this book is destined to make a major impact. But when it comes to nominating a book and also selecting one for a winner, you've got to pose the question, why this book and not others? Because we can all be quite certain that all of the books that were nominated were very strong pieces of work. I would like to suggest that what's special about this book is that the idea of universal crime, and by extension the idea of humanity, are at the center of international discourse. It's very difficult to speak about global justice for very long and not talk about universal crime or humanity. The same is true of universal human rights and international criminal law. Yet, despite this centrality, universal crime and most interestingly of all, to me at least, the idea of humanity is that these ideas are invoked more often than they're studied. In other words, they are quite typically used as a type of a rhetorical trump card that is meant to assert a position. I mean, who, after all, is against humanity? Yet, if you press somebody for explanation of what these ideas mean, despite their centrality in our field, you're very likely to get a vague reply, that it's generally a good thing and something that we should all pursue and support, without any awareness of its history, which for anybody who takes a moment to read this book will find that these ideas are far more complex and in many ways problematic than many imagine. What Sinja does, and she does it extraordinarily well, is she offers a fundamental rethinking of the idea of universal crime. And what's so important about this is that she gives us a new way, or rather an important way, to think about humanity. This idea that humanity is a collective subject that's capable of suffering injury. Some of the things that she does in the book include showing how this idea of universal crime is used by liberal thinkers to construct exclusionary hierarchies. And the colonial and imperial context in this respect is really quite fascinating, and I very highly recommend it. But this is not just a book about distant political theory in the 16th, 17th century and so forth. It also has important things to say about the reconstitution of universal crime in the post-Cold War era, for example. In fact, Sinja challenges a great deal of what cosmopolitan theory takes for granted. And perhaps most interesting of all, and something that's incredibly timely at the moment, is that she draws up some of the implications of these ideas in the context of climate change and climate destruction. So there's so much in this book, and it's done so well. Speaking for myself, I was particularly interested in the way universal crime and humanity are used in what Sinja calls an inclusionary Eurocentrism that projects European values as universally valid, but at the same time they're used to discipline and dominate. The reason I found this so interesting is that these sorts of themes have been a mainstay of my research throughout my career, and yet it never occurred to me that universal crime and humanity could also be complicit in this. And so this is something that I genuinely learned something unanticipated in this book. So I've already gone on too long, and I think everybody would rather hear from the author than me. So I'd like to close by saying this is a very important book. It's a book that deserves engagement, whether one agrees with the argument or not. And with that, I just want to reiterate my congratulations to Sinja for writing really a great book.
Wonderful. Many thanks to the attendees on this call, Ladislav, Will, Kayas, and Olga, and of course to the prize committee. I'll say a little bit about that in a minute. Well, I suppose once one has written the book, then it really belongs to the reader. And so in a sense, it's quite a nice time in the sense that, now other people interpret it in their own power. But thanks, Will, for your comments. Perhaps if I may pick up on the first point that you mentioned, that the many audiences that the book may address, or may please or may aggravate. Who knows now that it's out in the world. But that was actually one of the features of the book that I found very hard to deal with. And I suppose, given that our work is a marathon and not a sprint, once it's out in the world, it is sort of a happy moment when it reaches the readership and when it begins to make sense to other people, right? With some sense of trepidation, but of course some sense of happiness when it does, when it does find readership and is somewhat useful. So that said, if I can just say that, so with the marathon and the sprint, right, and all the moments of doubt and all the, all the moments are like, oh, maybe I don't have a project, that carries on for years, this particular phase. It's not a particular phase even. And so it's always a community effort. So, right, so I had many colleagues and reviewers who, of course, people reviewed the book, people have read the manuscript, people have read the proposal, like all of the different stages. And then the prize committee, I mean, I understand that the selection committee of the jury, of course, it's very time intensive, very labor intensive. And so I just wanted to express my appreciation of the commitment that all these people have displayed over the years to these kinds of projects. And at the end of the day, it's really a community effort, right? So that's about the book. Thanks again, Will, for the ingenious summary. So I'm glad that you touched on the points that you touched on. I think those are also really important to me. And I've been thinking a little bit about, how to carry some of these questions forward into further research. So I've done a little bit of work on Carl Schmitt and Hannah Arendt that I required some archival work, and that was actually quite fun. But that's published now. But I'm still working on questions of universalism, colonial history, international law, contested claims of justice. And at the moment, I'm working on a project that brings these kinds of questions that I've begun to develop in the book into a different direction, and to carry these questions forward into a different context, which is actually the relationship between international law and colonial atrocities in the context of German-Namibian relations, or rather the many problems that nowadays attend the bilateral and the contested bilateral nature of German and Namibian relations. So specifically, I think the connections between the book that fortunately is now done and the work that I carry over, the questions, the relationship between international law, violence, the passage of time, and the legacies of colonialism. So at the moment, I'm looking at how German ruling parties over time, quite consistently actually, have used and mobilized and politicized certain temporalized rules of international law in order to deflect or disavow the responsibilities that Germany today may still have for its colonial genocide, and how certain principles about the passage of time in international law can help politically to push back against reparation claims for colonial violence as they are set to contemporary political agents. And so, some of these questions I'm carrying forward. So we'll see how this goes. I'll just leave it there.
Thank you, Sinja. Firstly, I would like to express also the congratulations for the jury. I have to stress that we have spent more than 1 hour discussing your book. And I have to stress that your book was really evaluated in all 3 criteria as really brilliant and excellent. Jury was really happy to read your book, and we were really excited what you brought to the audience, and how you also, and this was also stressed in our laudatio, how you brought basically we stressed the first full-length study of the notion of crimes against humanity. This was something that was really very positively reflected within the jury. So congratulations again. And of course, I wish you also in the further work many success, and specifically many challenging topics. You presented some of them, and again, this also brings me to also to think, for example, about the Czech colonial history, being both the victims but also the aggressors in many ways. So this very twofold position of many nations and many political collectivities. Last but not least, I would like to stress that the jury also reflected another book as very important and very interesting for the political theory development, and this was the book of Avia Pasternak, your colleague in London at the University College in London. Avia presented the book Responsible Citizens, Irresponsible States. Should citizens pay for their state's wrongdoings? So the book that is really reflecting this I would say very recent development regarding budgeting, regarding the social policies or policies in general. And we decided next to the prize given to Sinja, also to recommend an honorable mention for the runner-up in political theory prize for Avia Pasternak. So this is something that I would like to stress, that our decision was clear at one side. On the other side, we have, and it was also stressed by Will, we have found many other books also very challenging, and I would say that the competition was really very tough in that way. Last but not least, I would like to stress also my gratitude to the other members of the jury. I mentioned them at the beginning, and I would like to stress that all of them volunteering within the jury basically spent a lot of time and they really work hardly, including my colleagues from the Harbor House staff. Again, many thanks to everyone within the process. Again, congratulations on Sinja. And last but not least, I would like to stress that we will be more than happy that Will, Sinja, and other colleagues within the political theory field will nominate the new books in the future, and we are keen to read new books within the new rounds of our prize in political theory within the ECPR framework.